to 8.5 community grants program. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This relates to round one of the community grants program.
They've got to go. We've got a few that have got to go out.
Yeah, just got to do our opening.
It's really not you, Joe. It's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. So we conducted an application process for round one, and applications closed in the middle of September last month. So 19 eligible applications were received. The evaluation panel has reviewed all of the applications and is recommending 15 of them to you to be awarded under round one of the community grants program for 21-22. So that summarises the recommendation before you, which is to approve the funding of $30,000 from round one to the 15 projects and organisations listed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, as Councillor Longley and Councillor Wales are on this committee, and it's actually quite a pleasing job to actually be able to give money away without having to argue about it all the time. It's one of them things that you wish more of the community would actually probably put things forward, but and I'll have to commend the job that Kirsty does on it is exceptional. So it's good to be involved with this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Ladies before gentlemen, Councillor Law.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just thought it's good to see a few different. It's good to see a few different organisations in there this year. We do from time to time get regulars, but this seems to be quite a few new lots, which is very good.
Thank you. Councillor Longley.
Yes, it's interesting. There's 4 from Howlong. First time ever, I think we've had particularly 4. Very rarely do we have one. But I'd just like to note one in particular is the one from the Howlong Football Club. That program, it's a pilot program educating young drivers, male, female, against the horrors of drink driving and so forth. It's going to be an education program specially designed, and I'd just recommend that their what do you call it, foresight in trying to develop a safer community.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to agree with Councillor Kennedy. It's certainly good when you have money there, just sort of check through all the lists and tick here and tick there, and no doubt all these little they certainly benefit by the money they get for sure. Also, Kirsty, she does a great job and she keeps on the ball and what to do and everything. So we don't get little errors, she corrects us, but she does a great job in organising these grants. So well done, Kirsty. Thank you.
Yeah. So if there's no more talk, anyway, I suppose thank you very much for those councillors. It's good to see that they have enjoyed his time handing out that money. And also the staff. It's a great little program. So if there's no further comments, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you.
Could only put that photo in, can I? Or a Agro crane.
Remind me later.
Everybody's there, and not one of them's got a hard hat on.
Yeah, better not. As thick as a brick, I can't remember.
Put on my phone has been on us.
Up the north one.
Let's get that fixed.
I don't forget.
Agenda item 8.6 is the Federation Primary Prevention Team. So there's an opportunity to establish a community-led committee to be known as the Federation Primary Prevention Team for Alcohol and Drugs to deliver alcohol and drug-related primary prevention planning, interventions and initiatives. We did establish last year, in August last year, the Community Drug Action Team, which is a committee of council to assist with a particular government-funded grant or government grant-funded program. And we were also successful earlier this year in establishing a local drug action team. And so what we're proposing with this community-led committee is it will look after both of those programs, and so we won't need to have those separate committees or teams anymore. We'll now have one overarching community-led committee that looks after drug and alcohol prevention of harm initiatives. So the recommendation before you is to note the report, to dissolve the existing Community Drug Action Team Committee, to support the establishment of the new community-led Federation Primary Prevention Team, Alcohol and Drugs, to take effect following the New South Wales local government elections, that Council adopt the proposed terms of reference that are included in the paper today for that team, and following the local government elections to nominate a council delegate to be a member of this new team.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Moore. Any questions or comments? Councillor Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I sit on this committee with Councillor Longley, who comes sometimes. They've been having every fortnight a meeting there, and Mel Story does a great job there, and they're all dedicated, and it's good to see this change that combine both together for crime prevention, which is common sense, and hope it's the way it's going. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wales. Councillor White.
Just a question. The liquor record for the Federation Council area, or LGA, there was a liquor record before. I'm not sure whether that still exists, and whether if it was going to exist or we could reinvigorate that committee. There's some strong ones, or we've got a good one, or whatever. We've got a lot of licensed areas in the town. Maybe if they could get that going, that one of those representatives could sit on this committee, or try and reinvigorate it.
Councillor Whitechurch, could you please explain? Liquor record.
Yeah, I like that.
That's right, yeah. So
I'll
the
let
liquor
you.
records basically has representatives from all of the licensed clubs, pubs and restaurants, whatever, within the Shire. It's not a compulsory thing that you be part of, but they talk about any pertinent issues that are coming up, or if there's an event like New Year's Eve, how it's going to be managed through the Shire. If you've got different, say, refusals, or how you deal with people that are regular offenders and all things like that. And it was fairly strong, but over time it's sort of fallen away, from my belief. Maybe I can't seem to find much about it at the minute, so it might be a good time to get that going again.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I echo Councillor Whitechurch's remarks. I used to sit on the liquor court many times, and they get guest speakers there, the police attend there, and they just sort out problems and everything. But it's good for the community, what's going on, and there's this evil alcohol. So,
Excellent. Thank you. If there's no further comment, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against carried.
Agenda item 8.7 relates to recognition of the traditional owners of the council area that we are responsible for. So discussions have commenced with representatives from the local Bangarang people, who are recognised as the traditional owners of the land in the southern part of the council area. So, and they're seeking to have a stronger engagement with council, and to build a really active, strong, and positive relationship with our council and with the local community. So, what is proposed here is that council proceed with developing or first of all establishing a working group, and then look to establish a reconciliation action plan for the Federation Council area that provides that recognition and enables a strengthening of that relationship. So through this process, we'll also be looking at how do we recognise and engage and strengthen the relationship with other traditional owner groups, such as in the northern part of the council area, to ensure that is not missed as part of this process. But also we have a long overdue update required of council's welcome to country and acknowledgement of country policy. So, and that again is about recognising traditional owners. So as part of this, we will review that policy, look at the flags that are flown in the chamber, those types of things that acknowledge the history of our area, and that will be covered through this project. So the recommendation before you is to note the report and to endorse the establishment of a Reconciliation Action Plan working group to progress the establishment of a Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan for the Federation Council area.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Councillor Thomas, did you have a comment or question? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity Dr. Shannon, for bringing this to our business papers. It is really highlighted because obviously we've got a theme happening here, which is absolutely brilliant. In terms of revisiting your welcome to country and acknowledgement to country, I took the liberty to email you all in chamber today a link, and this link only came to me yesterday, and we had privilege to watch it at the MDA board meeting, and that was the TEDx talk by Jay Kennedy from the University of Wollongong. Takes 10 minutes, but it's a very valuable watch, so I absolutely I'll encourage you that, and probably also the working group to have a look at it, because it actually gives different background and perspective to acknowledgement to country and welcome to country. On that point too, I just wanted to highlight to you something that has come across my desk, and I found it extremely interesting. It comes from 2001. The Local Government Association resolved in 2001 that the Local Government Association calls on all councils to display the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags as appropriate in conjunction with the Australian flag in all state and local government places where flags are exhibited, and that the state government introduce a protocol to facilitate this process. Just want to draw that to your attention. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
And my final item today, councillors, for you is Christmas is coming. So we have a report here recommending the opening hours or opening or closing hours of our of council facilities to the public through that Christmas New Year period. So there are particular hours being recommended for a range of council facilities, including the admin buildings, depots and our libraries. So that recommendation is for you to endorse those proposed hours.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. And thank you, Director Joe. Okay, councillors, item number 9, Director of Development and Environmental Services report. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, before you, item 9.1 is the building approvals for the month of September. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Item 9.2 is the development applications approved under delegation in September. Again, happy to take any questions.
Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Item 9.3 is the state and regional development applications that are involved in the council area. There's been 2 updates since the last council meeting. We now have the dates for both the regional developments. So for the Mulwala subdivision, that is being determined by the panel on the 4th of November, and the solar farm proposed for Mulwala is the 26th of October. Happy to take any questions.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Item 9.4 is seeking resources to put on a project officer and administrative support for trade waste. As you can see from the report, there's been a number of changes in the trade waste area and in compliance in particular, and we currently only have a 0.3 of an equivalent full-time officer dealing with trade waste. This is no longer sustainable, hence the recommendation before council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's just, whilst that's going to impact on the 2 funds associated, my understanding is that that will be recouped with as part of the review into charges that have been missed at this point. Also, that given the presentation we've had by our engineers as to the state of our water and sewer infrastructure, I think it's important that we do everything we can to protect that for as long as we can, to otherwise, if we don't, we're going to be up for a much bigger cost in a much shorter period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Eagle. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you. Item 9.5 is the tender conduct report regarding stage 4 for the roof of the Sale Yards project. It is to be referred to confidential.
And moved by councillor Law, seconded by councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments? I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sue. Now we'll move on to item number 10, Director of Engineering Services report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Mr Carmwhite.
Item 10.1 is the report on the progress of the works program during September for notation and question.
Okay, can I have a mover, please, councillors? Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thomas.
Director Carmichael, I noticed they are progressing with the works for the Kairama Whaler Cycleway. I just thought if there was opportunity for one of the members of council to possibly remove that old fencing, especially there at Drain Lane that sits right next to the road. It's looking very untidy. Like those single plane wires have been broken for a number of years now. So whether they were either damaged with the tornado or they've been damaged because people have cut them to get access to the lake and the river, I just thought while they're working there, if they could possibly just have a bit of a tidy up, just thought I'd notate it today.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take that on board.
Yeah.
Director, if I could just ask a little question. Just wondering, years ago, there was a system with the previous council that each road had a number or an allocation, and that was very good for identifying the expenditure on the roads. I just wonder nowadays, is that still happen, or does it more go into a works pool type arrangement?
No, it does. Well, every road has a number, but we don't use the number to it. It becomes fairly onerous when you're doing timesheets and that. I know in a small organisation it's good, but once you get into a bigger organisation, it don't. But every road does have and at some stage part of the road committee that and I'm going to talk about that after lunch as well. We need to revisit that because we do have, I know we have at least one road that has a different name at each end. Federation Way, for instance, has a numbering system which starts out here at Burridger and goes to the Old Shire boundary, then comes from Urana down to the Old Shire boundary and then goes north. So theoretically you can have 3 rural addressing numbers on Fed Way, which are exactly the same. So there's a whole series of issues, and there are some duplication names in the area too that need doing. But yeah, I have been in areas where we use that. We don't here. We just use what we are starting to do is for gravel reshooting, and obviously for reseals we keep it. We keep a separate number, but when we're just doing routine maintenance, we don't keep them as such. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, if I may ask the Director of Engineering, what's become of the Roads Committee?
Nothing at the moment. It's on this afternoon for discussion.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just want to rejig the committee a little bit is one of the things I'm floating for this afternoon. So I did send Rochelle did send out some paperwork on it yesterday, which I think this afternoon's paper's longer than this business paper. So, but I don't intend to read it all to you, so don't get all that excited.
Thank you. And no further questions, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Item 10.2 is the Capital Works Program, again for September, and again is listed there for notation. Any questions, if there is?
You can move by councillor Meagle, seconded by councillor Thomas. Question, councillor Meagle.
If I may, Mayor, to the Director, I noticed that the Morris Park shelter is listed in Capital Works, and what's the time frame for that, given that we're now coming up to summer and that shelter would be very much very valuable to both the Little Athletics and the Cricket Club in the coming months. If you could just update the time frame, thank you.
You'll have to get back to you on that, Councillor Meagle. We'd only be guessing at this stage.
Councillor Thomas.
In compiling my notes for today's business papers and obviously doing some research, as I spoke earlier about looking at ALGA and looking at Local Government New South Wales in terms of their advocacy work to do with our roads and infrastructure, I came across this document from RAMJO, which is the Regional Freight Transport Plan. And I can see that Federation have had considerable input into this, not only their 4 focus areas, but also highlighted some of the key roads and infrastructure that forms this particular regional freight transport plan. But I did also notice in there, and I was going to bring it to your attention this afternoon, was this assessment matrix that they used as part of that process for those roads, because obviously when you're considering RAMJO, I think it's 12 councils and you're all going to have input, so you needed some form of matrix to have once again a hierarchy. But I found this and I didn't know whether that could be something that Federation could look at, this matrix, for that reason, because it actually then is consistent with what's been used in other documents.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any
Yeah.
further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried.
And item 10.3 is a report that we said we would bring back about the tip opening hours. This resulted as a notice of motion from the last meeting. Tony Rentalo has compiled a report there. And there is a recommendation.
Thank you. And moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Negle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one point in that recommendation, in terms of the reporting, whether or not council can receive a regular update on the income and expenditure of this situation, because we all know that we were going to cause an impost on the existing budget, and whether or not the increased revenue, because we've got better usage, was going to offset that and just enable future council to make a better and more informed decision going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Negle. Any further comments, councillors? No, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, Mr Carmichael.
That's it for me.
That's it for you. Item number 11, notice of motion, questions with notice, and rescission motions. The first one's 11.1, notice of rescission voluntary planning agreement. The DA, 495 lot subdivision in North Street, Whyalla. We've got a notice of motion there from Councillor Wales, 9.8. We the undersigned give notice of their intention to move the following motion at the next ordinary meeting of council. The following resolution by council at the meeting on the 28th of December 2021 for item 9.8 voluntary planning agreement. Okay, it's resolved on the motion of Councillor Meagle and Law that the council decline the voluntary planning agreement offer associated with the development application, as financial risk associated with the offer cannot be adequately defined and therefore it is not considered to be in the public interest to accept the offer. Be rescinded. Signed by Councillor Wales, Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Whitechurch. And notice of motion to be moved if rescission is successful. The motion is number 1.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Meagle.
Should we not debate the rescission motion first, and then we can get to the alternative motion?
Yeah, I'll do.
Yeah, yep. Which that's. I'm sorry, that is the motion. Yes, you're right. Where's a copy of that rescission motion?
You got to vote to rescind the first motion.
Yeah, it's been tabled, so copies in the right format, councillors. So as Councillor Meagle pointed out, the motion before you is the rescission motion. So you can treat that as any motion and debate for and against. It doesn't need a move and a second. It's been lodged.
Yeah.
By the councillors.
So I'll open it up for any questions or comments, councillors. It's the rescission motion. Councillor Meagle.
Yeah. Sorry, Rochelle's just suggested that it could have a rescission, a mover and a seconder, just as part of our ordinary format.
Yep.
And then that would flow through. So I might
that's fine.
ask that occur. Yeah.
I'll ask for a mover, please, for that rescission motion by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Kennedy.
And then debate. Sorry. Yeah.
And now debate. Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Understand, having read the motion, I just wish to raise my concerns that we rejected the voluntary planning agreement in the interest of the long-term costs to council and ratepayers, and that if we're going to rescind this motion, that we don't then put that at jeopardy of putting the ratepayers and the council organisation at a huge disadvantage over the long term, because this is not a decision that's going to be made that affects just now, it affects going forward, and it also sets precedent once again, which I've previously spoken about. So my concern is that by rescinding that, this motion and this VPA in its original was worse than one we rejected in the first place. And I'm just concerned that we're not showing as a council a consistent approach, and that we are placing the ratepayers and the council at a higher risk going forward.
That's fine. Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, I'm against the rescinding a motion. The reason's that in the presentation report that was given at the last meeting by the director, scenario 1, to cater for 10 years growth. It came in, the offer by the developer was $850,000. The cost to council was $2,075,000. Scenario number 2, cater for 20 years growth. The offer by the developer once again was $850,000. The cost to council is $2,265,000 at that point. The offer also does not include any other details in relation to the provision of facilities in the proposed green space road upgrades required in the existing road network that will result from this development. And in the conclusion, it went on to recommend that the offer be declined for the reasons that the financial risks associated with the offer cannot be adequately defined and therefore is not considered to be in the public interest to accept the offer.
Thank you. Can I hear some councillor for the rescission? Councillor Kennedy.
As you know, at the original meeting, I actually sort of pushed that the council entered into negotiations. I didn't agree with the agreement, what they put up, the VPA, whatever. If it wasn't enough, it wasn't enough. But at least go back to them and say, let's work it out and let's try and work it out and so there's no cost. That's the thing I'm pushing for. If you read that next motion that we're going to put through, that was just option 1 and 2. We had option 1, which was to knock it back, which the vote went against, knocked it back. Option 2 was for the council to go back and negotiate with the developer and try and come up with a joint verbal planning agreement to get it going. Because and that's what I'm pushing for today. I really want to see development happening in our towns. And at the moment, it's just snowballing, going nowhere. So that's the main reason why this rescission motion is to just make the council go and enter into discussions and instead of just knocking it back completely, just to go and say, right, this is where we are and this is what we need. And that's the fairest way you can be. Like, you put a tender out there and the tenderers, we've got, later we'll see one, the same thing. It's, you've got to go and then nominate and go and discuss, trying to work it out between yourself. That's the fairest way we can do things. And I think it's, obviously the offer was too short. I never agreed that the offer was enough. I just agreed that we should have went to option 2, which meant we go and discuss and negotiate with the people who are going to invest in our towns, which it's hard to find investors, and as across the road, there's 3,000 blocks of land getting built in the Morrishaw at the moment. We need that, Mulwala, like we need the doctor's surgery, we need people there. The more people get in town, the more assets and the infrastructure you're going to get. So I think it's a big thing to have infrastructure in our towns. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hear another speaker for as well. I've had 2 against and a couple for. Just mix it up. Councillors for, like to speak. Councillor Whitechurch.
I support the rescission motion based on basically what Councillor Kennedy said. We all agree that our shires need more development, but we have to get it right. And we've said that at our last meeting. We don't just have to get it right for the council and the infrastructure side of things. We have to get it right for the community. And that's been the whole thing with some of these developments. It's about getting it right. Now, I agree with Councillor Kennedy in the fact that if we go into a voluntary agreement with these people, they've got to agree to what our staff are telling them that we need for the development. We're We're not going back and saying, here's a hand up to get your development going. We want to be able to negotiate and talk to them and say, this is what our staff require and our infrastructure needs for future development. Are you going to talk about it and come to the party? That's what I think is going to happen, because as it stands, if we reject it, as we have, potentially, they're going to go away and they've got to come back with another set of plans or a development application, which is in form of a form of negotiation. Like, I don't see the difference. They're not going to, well, not going back, they're not going to go and, as I said last meeting, go and put potatoes in. They're going to pursue to get their development. They're an investor. I totally agree. Make the thing keep rolling forward, but it has to be right for everybody concerned. That's where I stand.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. And I, myself, at the last meeting and this meeting, we support the rescission motion for the reasons that I think we're really, when I sit here and listen to everyone, we're on the same page. We've been put in great stead by our director, given all the good information, who gave us the information to make a firm decision on the Corowa subdivision. I see this as an opportunity not to form like the status quo that we're a non-development council. We're saying, okay, we've knocked you back because you didn't play the game. This time we're saying to the developer, righto, we're in a position we can go back to them and say, righto, we're not happy with this, this and this, let's negotiate it and let's see if we can go through. And that will then hopefully bring forward some development, as everyone in the room I think wants to see. It's just purely giving us and the developer the option to go back, have a chat and see if we can meet on equal grounds. So that's the reason that I'm for the rescission motion. Councillor Wiles, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I put the rescission motion in for the two words, development and negotiation for Mulwala. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiles.
Can I have another comment, please?
Of course you can, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about Corowa and the Mulwala subdivision. There's a whole group going up against one in Corowa, which is fair enough. But in Mulwala, I don't think there's been a complaint. Well, I've had more comments from the local people in Mulwala. Why did you knock it back? And that's come from the Progress Association. That's come from all of them in Mulwala saying, Mulwala needs this. Mulwala needs to grow. And at the moment, that's the only place Mulwala can grow, because the factory on the western side's got it all capped off. There's no more places in Mulwala. If we want our towns to grow, we've got to negotiate with these people and try and get fair deals done. Thank you.
And the point, I think the vital point there is, we want growth. That's nobody would ever doubt that, and we want proper growth. Our directors have pointed out the things that we want, so this is just an opportunity to go back and negotiate where council wants to see things to go forward. So I think with that, I'll put it to a vote. So it'll be in favour of the rescission motion.
We'll need a show of hands for a planning matter division.
Yeah. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 3. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item.
So no, sorry, then you've got to put the motion
to
enter into the negotiations. So the motion now, so the rescission motion got up. Yeah, and then the motion comes forward to enter into negotiations regarding a voluntary planning agreement for the DA that seeks to address the concerns raised in the report. The wording, I won't go through it all, but the wording in this motion as submitted, but it is out of the business paper that was put before council as the other option to, if the council were going that way. It wasn't what was recommended by staff, but it was the other option put through the business paper. So that's been agreed by the three submitting that rescission motion, that if it was to get up, the motion that they'd like to put forward was this. Council receive a further report on the outcomes. Staff have put a recommended point 3, so I need to make that clear in staff review of that council, so that's up to the mover and the seconder. If this gets a mover and a seconder, that point 3 would be all costs, excluding council staff costs, but including any council legal costs if required, associated with the negotiations for any agreement are to be met by the applicant and or the developer. That is what we understand is part of the course. We've been advised before by legal matters, and that's something that if we have to go into that I suppose, more legal side of the negotiations, that would be seeking that, but again, matter for the mover and seconder to see if they're comfortable with that. So.
Thank you, councillors. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Thomas. All those in favour?
No, is there any debate?
And would there be any more debate, councillors? Councillor Thomas?
Did you have your hand up?
And that's with point 3.
Oh, yeah.
By supporting the motion that we have here in front of us, it actually gives opportunities to provide a VPA that is more fit for purpose. If we revisit our September business papers, our director Appleyard, I think it was it 4 points? Correct me if I'm wrong. 4 points that were outside the scope that you felt needed work. So we're really only revisiting on 4 points, and as I said, it actually would give us opportunity for a fit for purpose VPA progress forward for this particular development. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Thomas. Councillor Needle?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for the mover and the seconder, whether or not they wish to put a time frame on this, as because it's already been a long and drawn out, and rather than making it any more protracted, since everybody is keen to see this happening, is it worthy of putting a time frame that I defer to the director to say, would it be fair to ask for 6 or 12 months or whatever time frame she thought appropriate, that if they were fair dinkum and we could come to, rather than dragging on and being 2 or 3 years down the track and we still haven't got anywhere, was the question.
Thank you, councillor Meagle. I'll ask the director to speak to her if she's comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of things I think councillors should be aware of to do with procedures. So, first of all, the panel chair have set the date for the hearing for this particular application, and that's the 4th of November, as was in item 9.3 today. It is common practice that the applicant wears the cost of preparation of a volunteer planning agreement. And thirdly, in this particular instance, because of the money that's involved and the impact that it will have on council's long-term financial plan, potentially, or even if we do, the money that is comes forward from the planning agreement will have to impact on our long-term financial plan. Therefore, the minister has to sign off on this. Not only council and the developer, the minister is also involved. So we will not be able to give an indicative time frame of how long it will take to negotiate.
No worries.
Okay. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
So that was no again? Yeah.
No against. Item number 12, reports from committees. Will there be any reports from committees? Maybe it might be in the delegates. Item number 13, reports from delegates. We've got a report there from Councillor Thomas and the Murray-Darling Basin Association Region 2 update. Thanks, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. I was really happy to pull this together because last week I had opportunity to sit on a panel, and it was a South Australian panel, so that was really exciting. So South Australia have come to the party and they want to learn more about what's happening in other states. So that's really exciting. So I was able to provide them an update with what's happening in Region 2 as per cited in our business papers. If there's any questions, really happy to take them on board from what you can read today. The other point of call too is that Federation are hosting our Region 2 AGM, and we're going to be hosting it in Urana at the beautiful aquatic centre up there, the new building. So we're really excited about that, and we're hopefully getting YapTak as our guest speaker, and Curran District Land Care. I've asked them to come as well and have a static display. So how exciting to have them in the room with us on so many levels. And the other point of call, I'd actually like to propose that this AGM, that we have gallery at this AGM. We have gallery in our general meetings every month, and I thought, how many of us hear about the Murray-Darling Association are probably a little bit unsure about what they do, what they advocate for, what basin resources we look at, part of our due process. So I like to open that AGM up to the general public to attend from right across Region 2. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas.
Very good.
Exciting days. Any further comments or reports, councillor? Let's report.
Australian Livestock Sale Yards report from
Councillor Longwire. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, if I could, just to bring council up to date with, I remember the last time we had a Zoom conference, council meeting, that was a question was asked when I did the report in regard to the COVID mandatory vaccination. From the Victorian Department of Agriculture, I've got an email here that it says, this is Victorian legislation, I'm not sure, but we are affiliated with the Victorian group. If a worker from another company attends my site, who is responsible for checking their vaccination status? And the answer is their own employer. Okay, so let's talk about truckies and agents and all that. Point number 2, employers are responsible for their employees, contractors, volunteers or students on placement. And thirdly, the requirements are different for residential aged care facilities. And this is the interesting one I mentioned, construction sites, because we're about to envelope a construction site out at the sale yards. Healthcare facilities and education facilities, including childcare. In these cases, the operator of the site or workplace must ensure any worker on the premises meets the requirements. So I'm not sure about where we are with the New South Wales situation, Mr. General Manager. You able to comment on that?
I will just refer that to our Director of Development, see if you've got an update on that. I know our Angela, our Manager of Regulations, probably more so, but, and then David, but have you got any
Update regarding when we're construction workers. There are controls in the public health order, and we're keeping an eye on how we can get workers cross border and what have you. I know in the greater metropolitan Sydney area, you had to be double vaxxed or single vaxxed and have had waited 3 weeks. So we're assuming that's going to come in across our area long term.
So we're obviously, by the sound of it, we're aware of it in the future.
Yeah, and we're keeping a close eye on it. And
knowing what I've read and understand the panel that's looking after that, I have no problem with that at all. They're very good, all of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Law?
Thank you. As the delegate to the FedArt Prize Show, it's opened and it's a wonderful display. The committee have overcome a lot of difficulties in relation to the COVID-19 restrictions, but it's gone along swimmingly. The acquisition winner is a lino cut, which is something a little old-fashioned, a lot of work, but an amazing production. Absolutely wonderful. So it's gone well. It's amazing that the committee, Aaron and Philip, the Secretary Leslie Starr, have done a great job. It's a pleasure to be on that committee.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Any further delegate reports, Councillor? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday I was fortunate enough to be part of the Ramjo Energy Subcommittee meeting, which had not met since February and has obviously needed to get its wheels turning again. We had Lisa Miller from DPIE there, who was has been working on and has funded a couple of things. One is a regional strategic plan for Ramjo and therefore for the member councils, taking in all the projects and audits and actions from each council into something that they can then advocate as a regional energy strategy. And all the councils are progressing at different levels. I would just ask the director because it came up in ours that we have an energy audit and an energy plan. One is progressing and where we are up to with those. If she has a comment.
Meagle. Currently it hasn't been priority within the workforce. However, we are keeping an eye on the Transgrid project. As you're aware, that's happening in New South Wales and will cut across our council area. We're keeping an eye on that, and that will probably form the backbone of our audit and how we can move forward long term this council.
Thank you very much. And the really interesting part of the whole meeting was that as DPIE have also, on behalf of Rambo, paid for us to be members of I'll take AVIA, I think it is, and this is an organisation, the Gurus of Solar, is running out of the University of New South Wales, and it's a little tool that you can use to actually map your property, put it into the thing, and they will give you a rough estimate of what it would cost you, or what you should expect to pay to put solar on your house. And that happens right across the region. So all you have to do is go put a marker over your roof space, and it is meant to be as accurate because it includes shading and sun expectations and the whole pot. And it can certainly, as a member council, it's come to our region, so not only can our residents use it, but council can use it to look at how much space they've got, what they should expect to pay for it, and because the feed-in tariffs now, it's more about what you don't get out of the grid rather than what you put back into the grid. So I thought that was a really good tool, and I wanted to bring that to the council's information so that you can spread the word. If people want to put solar on their house, all they have to do is go onto this map, and I'll find the link and forward it to the General Manager for disbursement.
Think of me.
Thanks, Councillor Meagle. I might just comment on that one because it had been a while since that subgroup met, so I'm really glad you attended that energy one. And I think with Ramjo changing their CEO and in that new process, they've got to look at how they can resource what might be an over-ambitious strategic plan and all those subgroups, but those critical ones that they're working on, we hope that Ramjo with their remodelling can still do that, but to have councillors and staff attend, that's really good. I thought, with all the pressure on the federal government and the Prime Minister to attend the next summit, about our own resolution about that electricity neutral ambition by 25 and how we can be part of the regional approach with it, because our staff have said they'd love to be involved, but there's only so much, as you're fully aware, they can do amongst their other job, but it's certainly something I think we should never lose focus of.
So just along with that, Councillor Meagle, with Ramjo, we had the Ramjo water paper. We're involved in, there's a water group as well. Yep. So at the moment they're tweaking that paper, a live document, to any changes that need to be made to that as what was gazetted last time. So this council's offered a few changes, so that'll happen in big discussion in the coming weeks. But that's been also a very successful addition of MJ.
Yeah.
Okay, any further? Sorry, Councillor Watcher.
Mr. Mayor, just it's not a committee that I'm actually on, but I was invited with yourself and Councillor Wales last night to attend a Zoom meeting for the Corowa High School P&C. That committee's plodded along over time, and now Jodie Goodall has taken the chair. And through that meeting last night, they've ascertained that the P&C committee's really just got to be a committee that meets to discuss the canteen. And that was all it sort of really was. They have concerns that the school itself needs a bit of revibrant to the community and the surrounding community. Myself and there was probably 2 or 3 other students of yesteryear that were on the hookup, and basically the school, we see a lot of students go out of Corowa to other areas for the perceiving of better schooling, but the figures that the principal put up were actually quite surprising in the fact that they have a high retention of Corowa Primary, South Corowa and the St Mary's School. In fact, St Mary's School I think was one of the highest in the state last year to retain primary school students into high school. So yes, there's been a drop-off and things happen over the time, but what was interesting is they were going to be appreciative and they're going to approach council moving forward, be it this council or the new council, to see if there can be some sort of interaction or representation, because there's things like their their PE, physical education and whatnot. They can't get an ag teacher. 2 years, haven't been able to get an ag teacher and offer that elective. But even using our facilities like the aquatic centre and our ovals and whatnot, that they want to have that interaction, which I suggested that certainly wouldn't be a problem. But interestingly enough, I'm also on the Corowa Local Health Advisory Committee, as you are for your owner, Mr Mayor. They've got some schools now around, even in southern New South Wales, regionally, that have some medical facility through the school for mental health. The students that are actually can't talk to anybody, but could do it at school. And they're going to bring that back through me to the LHAC committee to see if we can integrate something back through the school as a medical option through the school. So I think the new committee that's been formed, with obviously some old committee members, but Jodie Goodall certainly drove it very well last night, and I think we're going to see some good stuff coming out of the high school, and some figures and some stats that the community just aren't aware of, that our high school, that we should be so proud of, is actually going forward. And I think when that comes through, we need to support it to no end. So,
Thanks very much, Councillor Whitechurch. Any further reports, councillors? If not, I'll get a mover. Someone like to move those reports? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Meagle. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Now we're dealing with item number 14, correspondence requiring council action for information. 14.1 is Ramjo board meeting, August 2021, and there's a copy of their minutes included with the agenda. There's a recommendation there that council moves that correspondence tabled. Can I have a move? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy.
Just make a quick comment on Ramjo?
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, just on Ramjo, attended the extraordinary meeting the other day of the Ramjo to adopt the financial statements, because like a council, they are prescribed, so they have to do statements and get audited, and the mayor was actually at one of those other committee meetings. So it was really pleasing to hear, like our performance as well, the auditors voluntarily provided that Ramjo is probably the lead in the state in terms of governance and reporting and getting things done as well. But their words were that Ramjo's got up and got running, and the reflection of that was their financial statements and things like that. So there is challenges with Ramjo, like there is with all councils themselves, about how to fund what you'd like to get done with staffing and wages. But certainly it was really good. And I know Chair Kevin Mack was very appreciative of those comments too, because a lot of work does go into Ramjo, especially by Albury City, that do a lot of behind the scene work. So yeah, it was really positive to hear that.
Thank you very much. There's been a massive amount of outcomes for different councils over the time. It's just a pity the funding wasn't greater from the state who implemented the Ramjos. And they've, like ours has been a very successful one. So if there could have been more funding coming forward instead of councils having to put in out of their pockets. Anyway, if no further questions, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, item number 15. Would someone like to move this the meeting into confidential? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. I think we'll just have a quick break while we get set up for